It started like any other ordinary day at Willow Creek Elementary. Kids flooded into the schoolyard, their backpacks bouncing on their backs, sneakers squeaking on the freshly polished floors, chatter and laughter filling the air. It was a kind of vibrant, chaotic energy that only a Monday morning could bring. And then there was her. She stood apart from the others, not because she wanted to, but because it seemed like she had no choice. Her name was Anna. She was small, quiet, and her clothes, well, they told a different story than everyone else's. While the other girls wore the latest sneakers, trendy jackets, and sparkling accessories, Anna wore hand-me-down jeans with frayed hems and a hoodie that was faded and a little too big for a frame. Her sneakers had seen better days. The soles looked thin and the laces were mismatched. Whispers followed her wherever she went. Did you see her shoes? Gross. She probably found that sweater in the trash. I heard she lives in some broken-down house on Maple Street. The word stung, but Anna never showed it. She just tightened her grip on the straps of her backpack and kept her head down. She wasn't looking for trouble. She wasn't looking for pity either. She just wanted to get through the day like everyone else. But kids can be cruel, especially when they think they have someone safe to target. Anna became the easy joke, the punchline in lunchroom conversations, the reason for snickers during recess. It didn't seem to matter how kind or polite she was. In a world where appearances meant everything, Anna had already been judged and sentenced. Teachers noticed, of course. Some tried to step in, offering her new supplies, inviting her to after-school clubs, pairing her with friendly classmates for group projects. But the damage was already done. The whispers had already taken root. And the saddest part? No one really asked Anna about her life. They just assumed. They painted her entire existence with one brush. Poor, invisible, irrelevant. It was easier that way. Easier to mock than to understand. There was a moment, one cold afternoon, that seemed to capture it all perfectly. Anna had forgotten her lunch. Or maybe she had never packed one to begin with. She sat alone at the end of the cafeteria, quietly sipping water while the other kids unwrapped sandwiches, traded cookies, and laughed over shared snacks. A group of girls at a nearby table noticed her. Look at her. One of them giggled, not even bothering to whisper. She's too poor to even eat. The others burst out laughing, some pretending to look sympathetic before snickering again. Anna heard every word, of course. She always did. But she just took another sip of water, staring down at the table, willing the minutes to pass faster. What none of them knew, what none of them could even imagine, was that Anna's story wasn't anything like they thought it was. Because behind the frayed jeans, the second-hand hoodie, and the worn-out sneakers was a truth that would leave everyone speechless. Anna wasn't some charity case. She wasn't neglected. She wasn't invisible in the way they believed. No, Anna was the daughter of one of the most respected philanthropists in the entire state. Her family had donated millions to local shelters, food banks, and schools, including Willow Creek Elementary itself. They were known for their incredible generosity, their belief that every human being deserved dignity and opportunity. And more importantly, they believed in raising their daughter to understand, truly understand, that kindness mattered more than clothes, that humility was worth more than popularity, and that a good heart would always outshine a shiny outfit. Anna's poverty wasn't a mistake. It wasn't neglect. It was a choice, a radical, intentional way her parents taught her to live simply, to feel empathy for others, and to never, ever judge someone based on what they wore or how much money they had. But the kids at Willow Creek didn't know that. Not yet. And when the truth finally came out, it would change everything. Not just how they saw Anna, but how they saw themselves. Because sometimes the person you laugh at is the one who could teach you the biggest lesson of your life. And Anna? Well, she was about to teach them all, without ever saying a single harsh word. Every morning, Anna would walk the same cracked sidewalk leading up to Willow Creek Elementary. She always arrived early, not because she was eager, but because she preferred to slip inside before the crowds could gather and the stairs could start. Her backpack, a faded navy blue with one broken strap, sagged heavily against her small frame. Inside, she carried a few notebooks, some chewed-up pencils, and a heart full of quiet hopes. Hopes that maybe today would be different. Maybe today no one would laugh. Maybe today she could just be invisible. But even as she stepped to the school's front doors, the familiar feeling sank into her chest like a stone. The glances, the whispers, the quick, judgmental once-overs from kids who wore brand-new sneakers and designer hoodies. Anna kept her eyes on the floor and moved quickly, heading straight for her classroom. She had gotten good at shrinking herself, at folding into the corners of rooms so she wouldn't attract attention. It was a survival skill she had developed without even realizing it. But surviving didn't mean it didn't hurt. Lunchtime was the hardest part of her day. While most kids laughed and shouted across the cafeteria, Anna would sit alone at the far end of a long, cold table. She unpacked her lunch carefully, almost ritualistically. A simple peanut butter sandwich wrapped in wax paper, a bruised apple, and a small bottle of water. No chips, no colorful juice boxes, no little notes from Mom like other kids sometimes had. It wasn't that her parents didn't care. Quite the opposite. They just wanted Anna to understand the difference between wants and needs. In a world obsessed with more, they were determined to teach her the power of less. Still, to a 10-year-old sitting alone while the world around her exploded in chatter and friendship, those lessons sometimes felt impossibly heavy. She would overhear snippets of conversations. She wears the same hoodie every day. Did you see her backpack? It's falling apart. Maybe she doesn't even have a real house. The words floated toward her like tiny arrows. She tried to build an invisible shield around herself, pretending she didn't hear, pretending it didn't matter. But some days, no matter how strong she was, a few arrows always found their mark. Gym class was another battlefield. Anna loved running. She loved feeling the wind whip against her face, loved the rhythmic pounding of her sneakers on the track. But gym uniforms were the great equalizer, or at least they should have been. Her uniform was different. The school's policy was that gym clothes had to be purchased from a special vendor. Anna's parents, valuing simplicity, had bought her a plain set of affordable athletic clothes that followed the rules technically, but stood out sharply against the sea of branded, name-label outfits everyone else wore. During warm-ups, while others laughed and chatted, Anna focused on her stretches, counting silently in her head. She refused to let them see her discomfort. She moved with quiet strength, determined not to give them another reason to point or laugh. Even when she overheard the cruel jokes, "She looks like she got her gym clothes from a thrift store." She stayed steady, anchored to a promise she made herself every morning. Just get through today. Despite it all, Anna never gave up on kindness. There was a day, a cold, rainy Thursday, when she found a stray kitten meowing pitifully near the back steps of the school. Without hesitation, she pulled off her hoodie and wrapped the shivering creature inside. She spent the entire afternoon freezing, shivering slightly at her desk, but smiling quietly to herself. Later, when a teacher found out, they praised an anonymous hero who had rescued the kitten. Anna said nothing. She didn't want recognition. She didn't need it. She knew who she was. And that was enough. The weekends didn't bring much relief either. While other kids attended birthday parties at fancy trampoline parks or posed for pictures at soccer games, Anna often spent her Saturdays volunteering with her parents at shelters and food banks. She handed out warm meals, sorted donated clothes, and listened to strangers' stories. Stories filled with hardship and resilience far deeper than anything she faced at school. Those Saturdays reminded her, suffering doesn't always wear worn-out clothes. And kindness doesn't always come with applause. Anna never bragged about these experiences. She never talked about her weekends or mentioned the gratitude in the eyes of the people she served. She carried those moments quietly, tucked away in a heart that grew stronger and more compassionate with each passing day. Still, there were nights when the loneliness felt overwhelming. Anna would lie in bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering why it had to be so hard. She knew she was lucky in so many ways to have parents who loved her, who believed in her, who taught her real values. But sometimes being different felt like the heaviest burden in the world. She wished, just for a little while, that someone would look past her clothes and see her. Not the frayed jeans, not the thrift store hoodie, not the mismatched sneakers. Just Anna. Funny, smart, strong Anna. But if no one else could see it, not yet anyway, she would keep believing it for herself. Because deep down, Anna understood something most kids her age hadn't figured out yet. True worth isn't something you wear on your body. It's something you carry inside your soul. And no amount of cruelty could ever take that away from her. It was supposed to be just another Friday at Willow Creek Elementary, the kind where kids counted down the minutes until the weekend and teachers tried their best to keep some kind of order. But for Anna, it would become the day everything changed. It started with the announcement. Mrs. Campbell, the principal, tapped the microphone during the morning assembly, waiting for the chatter to die down. Behind her, a large banner was being unfolded, its bright letters catching everyone's attention. Willow Creek Appreciation Day, sponsored by the Harding Foundation. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Everyone had heard of the Harding Foundation. They were the big deal around town, the ones who built the new library wing, who donated laptops to low-income families, who sponsored holiday meals for families who couldn't afford them. Today, Mrs. Campbell said, smiling, we're honoring the incredible generosity of the Harding family. Without them, so many opportunities at Willow Creek wouldn't exist. The kids clapped politely, some more enthusiastic than others. After all, to them, donors were just names on plaques, distant, faceless people who wrote checks. Then Mrs. Campbell continued, and to celebrate, we're inviting a very special guest, someone who knows firsthand what it means to give back with heart. Heads turned as a slim, well-dressed woman stepped onto the stage. Her smile was warm and genuine. Some kids recognized her immediately. Mrs. Harding, the woman whose charity work had been featured on local news. And standing right beside her was Anna. For a moment, the entire gym seemed to freeze. Kids blinked, exchanged confused glances, craned their necks to be sure they were seeing correctly. Anna, the weird girl, the one with the ripped jeans and thrift store sneakers? Mrs. Harding took the microphone, her voice steady and clear. Some of you know my family's work, she began, but what you may not know is that our commitment to service, to humility, and to kindness isn't just something we write checks for. It's how we live. She turned and smiled at Anna, her pride unmistakable. This is my daughter, Anna. And for the past year, Anna has been walking among you. Not as a donor's daughter, not as someone above you, but as your classmate, your peer. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Harding continued, Anna chose to live simply, to understand, truly understand, that worth isn't measured in brand names or popularity. She chose to experience life without the privileges her last name could have bought her. And what she's learned, what we've learned from her, is a lesson all of us can take to heart. For the first time, Anna raised her eyes and looked out across the crowd. It was a sea of stunned faces. Some kids looked guilty, remembering every harsh word and whispered joke. Others looked confused, struggling to reconcile the Anna they thought they knew with the truth, standing right in front of them. Anna stepped forward. Her voice trembled slightly at first, but then grew stronger. I didn't want anyone to treat me differently because of my family, she said. I wanted to know what it felt like to just be me, to see who would notice me for who I am, not what I have. She paused, letting the words sink in, and even though it's been hard sometimes, I'm glad I did. Her honesty hit harder than any lecture or punishment ever could. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. Calm, brave, without anger, without bitterness. She wasn't there to shame them. She was there to show them. The rest of the day felt different. Whispers still buzzed through the hallways, but they weren't the same as before. They weren't cruel anymore. They were curious, regretful, amazed. At lunch, a few girls shyly approached Anna's table. They didn't bring flashy snacks or try to show off. They just sat down, unsure what to say, but wanted to be near her. Later, during gym, one of the boys who had laughed the loudest about her uniform offered her a spot on his team first. Not because he pitied her, but because he finally saw her strength for what it was. Small changes, small steps, but real ones. The biggest change, though, wasn't in how they treated Anna. It was in how they started seeing themselves. For the first time, kids who had judged others based on clothes or phones or backpacks started to wonder, what if I'm wrong about people? What if what matters most isn't what's on the outside? It was a powerful shift, one that no amount of assemblies, posters, or teacher lectures had ever managed to create. Anna had done it simply by being herself, by enduring, by forgiving, by standing in her quiet, unshakable truth. That night, as Anna sat at the dinner table with her parents, they asked her how the day had gone. She smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "It was good," she said simply. "Really good." And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't feel judged. She didn't feel alone. She felt seen. She felt respected. She felt understood. Anna's journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Because sometimes the hardest path leads to the most beautiful destination. And sometimes it only takes one brave heart to change an entire school or even an entire world. The Monday after the school assembly, Willow Creek Elementary was buzzing. The news about Anna, the girl so many had overlooked, teased, or underestimated, had spread like wildfire. It wasn't just within the school walls anymore. Parents were talking about it at pickup. Teachers whispered about it in the staff room. Even local news outlets had caught wind of the story. Local girl teaches powerful lesson in humility and character. At first, Anna wasn't sure how to handle the attention. For so long, she had worked so hard to blend in. Now, she found herself in the exact spotlight she had tried to avoid. But something inside her had shifted. She wasn't afraid anymore. She knew who she was. And now, so did everyone else. That Friday, Willow Creek hosted a special school-wide assembly. This time, it wasn't just the students sitting cross-legged on the gym floor. Parents filled the bleachers. Reporters milled around the edges of the room. Cameras poised. Mrs. Campbell stood on stage again, but her voice carried a new kind of excitement. "Today," she said, "we celebrate one of our own, someone who showed incredible bravery, kindness, and integrity when no one was watching." Anna's name echoed across the gymnasium as everyone turned to look at her. A few kids clapped hesitantly at first, then louder, until the whole room was thundering with applause. Anna stood up slowly. Her heart raced, but she didn't hesitate. She walked in front of the room, head held high. As Anna reached the stage, Mrs. Campbell handed her a microphone. The room quieted. Anna took a deep breath, scanning the sea of faces. She could see the kids who had laughed at her, the ones who had ignored her, the ones who now looked at her with something entirely new in their eyes. Respect. "I know this week has been surprising for a lot of you," Anna began, her voice steady. There were a few chuckles, not mean ones, but the kind that came from shared awkwardness. "I didn't come to Willow Creek to be anyone special. I just wanted to learn, like everyone else. I wanted to make friends, to be part of something real." She paused, searching for the right words. "And for a long time, it felt like I wasn't good enough, because I didn't have the right clothes or the right backpack or the right shoes." Around the room, kids shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Anna smiled gently, letting them know she wasn't here to accuse, just to be honest. "But the truth is," she continued, "none of that ever mattered. Not really." She glanced over at her parents in the front row, her mom beaming with pride, her dad wiping his eyes discreetly. "My family taught me that what matters is kindness, integrity, how you treat people when you think no one's watching." The room was silent. Every kid, every teacher, every parent, they were all listening now. "And now you all know who I am," Anna said. "But more importantly, I know who I am. And that's something no amount of money or popularity could ever give me." When Anna finished, the gym erupted in applause again, louder, longer this time. But the best part wasn't the applause. It was the way people looked at her now. Not with pity, not with confusion, but with admiration. She wasn't a poor girl anymore. She wasn't the weird kid with the ripped jeans. She was Anna, strong, brave, kind-hearted Anna. In the days that followed, small but meaningful changes began to ripple through Willow Creek. At recess, kids who had once formed tight cliques started inviting others to join their games. At lunchtime, new friendships bloomed across old social barriers. Kids swapped stories not about brands or gadgets, but about dreams, fears, and funny family moments. Anna found herself surrounded by new faces, not out of charity, but out of genuine connection. And it wasn't just the students who changed. Teachers became more aware, too, noticing the quiet kids in the back of the room, offering encouragement where before there might have been indifference. One afternoon, Anna sat under the big oak tree on the playground, her favorite spot. She was scribbling in her notebook when Mia, a girl who used to giggle behind her back, plopped down next to her. "Hey," Mia said, kicking at the dirt nervously. I was wondering, would you maybe want to come over this weekend? My mom's making homemade pizza." Anna looked up, surprised, not because Mia was talking to her, but because Mia looked genuine, nervous even, like she really cared what Anna's answer would be. Anna smiled. "Yeah, I'd like that." Mia's face lit up, and just like that, a new chapter began. Meanwhile, the story of Anna's journey kept spreading beyond Willow Creek. A local newspaper did a feature on her, calling her the girl who reminded us what really matters. A radio station invited Anna and her parents to speak about humility and the importance of character. Even the mayor sent her a letter, thanking her for being a role model to the community. Anna didn't let it change her, though. She still wore her favorite old hoodie. She still packed simple peanut butter sandwiches for lunch. She still volunteered at shelters with her parents every weekend. Because for Anna, being seen wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about making sure the next lonely kid in the lunchroom knew they weren't invisible. It was about reminding people that true value doesn't come from the labels you wear. It comes from the heart you carry. And no matter how much the world changed around her, Anna stayed true to the girl she had always been. Quiet, brave, unbreakable. By the time spring rolled around, Willow Creek Elementary wasn't the same school anymore. And honestly, neither was the town. Anna's journey, from the quiet, strange girl to someone who inspired an entire community, had left deep, lasting footprints. Not just in school hallways or at kitchen tables, but in people's hearts. It wasn't about fame or headlines. It was about something deeper. Real change. Real lessons. And no one, not Anna, not her classmates, not the parents or teachers, would ever forget them. Lesson 1. Kindness matters more than appearances. For years, most of the kids at Willow Creek judged people based on the easiest thing they could see. Clothes, shoes, gadgets, popularity. It wasn't that they were bad kids. It's just no one had ever challenged them to look deeper. Anna did, without preaching, without scolding. She just lived it, by choosing simplicity, by blending in when she could have stood out. She taught everyone that true kindness comes when there's no audience, no reward, no applause. And it's what's on the inside, not the brand of your sneakers, that defines who you really are. Now, when new students joined Willow Creek, they were welcomed warmly, no matter what they wore or where they came from. Kids remembered Anna when they chose to sit with someone new at lunch. It became part of the school culture, part of who they were. Lesson 2. Courage doesn't always look like what you expect. Most people think of courage as something loud. Firefighters charging into burning buildings, soldiers in battle, heroes on TV. But Anna showed them a different kind of bravery. She faced cruel whispers, mocking laughs, and loneliness day after day, and she never gave up being herself. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic, but it was powerful. Real courage, they learned, is staying true to who you are even when it would be easier to pretend. Kids who had once been too scared to speak up for themselves found new strength. They remembered Anna's quiet resilience whenever they were tempted to change just to fit in. Lesson 3. Everyone has a story you can't see. After Anna's identity was revealed, one of the biggest shocks for her classmates was realizing how wrong their assumptions had been. They thought they knew Anna. They thought they understood her life. They didn't. And if they had been wrong about Anna, who else had they misunderstood? It sparked something powerful, not just sympathy, but curiosity. A desire to know people, not just judge them. Kids started asking better questions, listening more closely, looking beyond first impressions. Even the teachers took notice. They saw new friendships bloom between kids from different backgrounds, friendships that never would have happened before. And it all started with one girl who refused to let herself be defined by labels. Lesson 4. Wealth isn't about money. Anna's family had plenty of money, sure. But Anna showed everyone that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in generosity, in character, in the way you lift others up instead of putting them down. Anna could have walked into Willow Creek with designer clothes and made everyone jealous. Instead, she chose a path that taught humility and gratitude. Kids who once bragged about the newest phone started bragging about helping out at the food bank. Birthday parties became more about giving than getting. Service projects popped up all around town. Food drives, coat collections, reading programs for younger kids. Anna's quiet example had planted seeds of generosity that grew far beyond anything her parents' foundation could have bought with money. Lesson 5. One person really can make a difference. At first, it seemed impossible. How could one girl change an entire school, an entire town? But Anna did, not by being loud, not by demanding attention, just by being herself and standing firm in who she was. Her journey reminded everyone that real change doesn't come from grand speeches or big gestures. It comes from everyday choices, from small acts of kindness, from one person's quiet refusal to give up on goodness. If Anna could change Willow Creek, what could they do? It lit fire in people's hearts. A belief that they, too, could make a difference started with their own small corner of the world. Anna's legacy. By the end of the year, Willow Creek Elementary named a new annual award after Anna, the Heart of Willow Creek Award, honoring students who showed exceptional kindness, courage, and character. The first recipient wasn't the smartest kid in class, or the most popular, or the best dressed. It was a shy boy who had been bullied for years, and who, inspired by Anna, started a friendship club for lonely kids. When Anna stood on the stage next to him, presenting the award, she felt a lump rise in her throat. This was what it had all been for. Not fame, not recognition, but real change, real love, real community. Anna smiled, knowing she hadn't just survived her year at Willow Creek. She had transformed it, and in doing so, had transformed herself too. And somewhere deep down, she knew this was only the beginning.